One of the most popular topics of discussion in the media recently has been about the issue of doctors' unemployment crisis. How does it make sense that we are talking about NHS waiting list and doctors are still unemployed? It looks like, why don't you employ the doctors to solve the whole NHS waiting list problem? But that is actually not the situation. And obviously, it's beginning to look like it's actually not that simple. And that is why there's this current issue about doctors still being unemployed in the UK, and they seem to be getting worse. Like, compared to what it was last year, it's actually really getting worse. So recently there was an article that actually trended, on the social media about a GP who had to resort to driving Ubers in order to earn a living, because after his GP training he couldn't secure a job to work as a doctor. And now we are saying that it's not only the GP, a lot of other doctors, resident doctors, are really worried and concerned that what is going to be their fate, especially after their foundation years, if they are unable to get unemployment. And this is actually pushing a lot of doctors to consider leaving the UK completely to seek for jobs even outside of the UK, and this definitely calls for a lot of concern. So in this video today, I'm just going to be talking about why exactly are we still faced with the problem of doctors' unemployment amidst the long NHS waiting list. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about what exactly is the current picture of things. I'm going to be talking about some of the possible reasons why it is happening, and also we will also be talking about what is the way forward from here. Okay, hello, my name is Blessing and I'm a doctor currently practicing here in the UK. I am a first year psychiatry trainee, and here on this channel I talk about medicine. I share about my journey as a doctor in training in the NHS. So feel free to actually join the community, and let's just get right into the video. Okay, talking about the current situation of things. So it was said that about 33,000 doctors actually applied for specialty training recently, and out of that, and these 33,000 doctors actually applied for the available 12,000 roles. So it means that an extra 21,000 doctors are not going to be able to get a training position at the end of that round. And so this actually calls for a lot of concern, because this is quite a huge number. It's actually very important to know that there are some factors that are responsible for this. So to start with, when it comes to training, residency training within the NHS, what usually happens is after medical school, a doctor usually go through the first compulsory 2 years of what we call foundation year. So that's what transitional phase from medical school to getting into specialty training. So within those 2 years, you tend to get a lot of skills, a lot of competencies. It's also an opportunity for doctors to build what we call a portfolio. So a portfolio is more like it's required for one to actually get into specialty training for a lot of specialties within the NHS. Though there are a few specialties that do not actually use the portfolio system, but for most specialties, portfolio is still required. And this is basically like you meeting certain competencies, something that, so all of these competencies, your achievement, what it's expected of you to have attained as a doctor to be able to get into this certain specialty. So, and this is what is going to be compared against you as a doctor and every other doctor that is also competing for a post in that specialty. So what usually happens is after the foundation year, for a lot of specialties, they actually use what we call the MSRA, which is a multi-specialty recruitment assessment. So it's more like an exam that you have to write. And for some specialties where they don't use portfolio, what basically happens is you're going to be ranked based on your performance in that exam, and the slots are going to be given out based on these ranks. Now, for specialties that actually use the portfolio system, what usually happens is that the MSRA scores usually qualifies them for the interview sessions. So based on their performance, the various specialties or colleges are going to release like their cutoff marks to like their cutoff points for these individuals to qualify for the next phase of the recruitment, which is the interview. So they go through the interview process, and I think that's where the portfolio usually comes in and every other thing. Now, based on the performance of these doctors in the interview, another list is going to be released based on their performance, another rank, and so the jobs within that specialty will be given out based on those ranks, and that is how doctors actually get into specialty training. So what has happened is that over the last few years, about 3-4 years now, the number of medical graduates has significantly and consistently increased, while there has not been a corresponding increase in the number of training positions. So in 2022, over 9,000 doctors graduated from medical school, and this number has increased since then, and it's anticipated that in 2025 over 12,000 doctors are going to graduate from medical school, are going to become doctors. So now this is like over 3,000 increase. And but in terms of the training position, nothing has changed. It's still the same as what it used to be about 5-6 years ago. So it means that there is nothing that has been put in place to actually accommodate this increasing number of medical graduates. I understand that one of the reasons why the decision to actually increase the number of medical graduates was made was because of the NHS, the long-term workforce plan, which is more like the UK government's plan to raise to domestically train professionals in order to reduce their over-reliance on international medical graduates. And that seemed to be like a very good idea. But then I guess what was not considered in the course of this plan was the fact that the increasing number of doctors will have to get into specialty training in order to eventually become consultants and be able to, manage that role, because the NHS is a place where consultants are very, very essential. Like consultants are very, very important, in the cadre of things, and yet they're still like very few. So as it is right now, I think it's being said that there isn't enough doctors, enough consultants in the NHS, and even one of the reasons why the specialty training position is not being increased is because there isn't enough consultants to actually supervise those roles if they eventually increase them. So it seems like this is going to cost the government a whole lot of money, because there has to be more consultants and then increasing the slots, meaning that more doctors have to be trained, and that is definitely going to increase the amount of money that the government will have to spend, on like in terms of training these professionals. And recently we can also see that it's obvious that the government is also making effort to actually cut down costs within the NHS. And what do I mean? So recently we have another reason why doctors are facing unemployment, obviously, is also because some other healthcare professionals are beginning to take up roles that doctors used to, occupy, or take up tasks that doctors in previous years used to be the ones to handle. And unfortunately, this has actually caused a lot of issues, and within various specialties. But I think as it is right now, it has come to stay, and it doesn't seem like anything is going to be changing in that direction. And that is, we talk about the physician associates and the advanced nurse practitioners. And really, the whole idea of these professionals coming in is just that the NHS is trying to produce its own domestic workforce. But then really looking at it, it is cheaper for the NHS to actually increase the numbers of PAs rather than increase the numbers of doctors. While these PAs and AMPs, they are paid lesser than doctors to actually do like the jobs of doctors, and also they do not have to go through like many years of trainings like doctors would. And so in a way, that will also reduce the cost that the government has to spend on training medical professionals. Eventually, doctors in training will become consultants. Consultants earn much more than junior or resident doctors. So that is also going to be another increased pay. And so if all of that can be reduced, then it means that the government is able to save more. So it's more like these health professionals are saving costs for the government. So traditionally, you go to a GP practice, a lot of times it's a doctor that usually attends to you, but now you go to a GP practice and it's possible that you find that there are only like maybe 2 GPs within that facility to supervise, and then we have like a lot of physician associates who eventually see the patients, and then the GPs more like play like a supervisory role, and they do the prescription, because these PAs are not yet licensed to do prescription. If these guys are beginning to do take up jobs that doctors in previous times used to do, it means that it is reducing the need for doctors, and that will eventually result in lesser doctors being employed within the NHS. So, and that is actually like the current situation of things. So another reason is the fact that in previous times there used to be a lot of non-training roles, such that doctors who don't get into specialty training can resort to non-training roles. For some doctors, they don't need they go for maybe locum jobs. But even now, a lot of doctors have heard their pain about the fact that even locum jobs have become quite scarce, and it's no longer like what it used to be in the past. So a lot of doctors are now being forced to actually take up like non-training full-time roles, which for some persons is actually not convenient, because the whole idea of locum is that it should give you some level of flexibility, maybe because of the extra commitments that you have as a doctor, maybe like a mom who has to look after children and doesn't have so much support in terms of childcare. They can opt for locum. It gives them a certain level of flexibility. There's still the option of less than full-time anyway for even non-training roles, but the problem majorly is the fact that even these non-training roles have significantly reduced, such that these doctors are not able to get into specialty training, and yet there is no and there are limited available non-training roles for them to actually fall back into. And that is why this is actually like a big problem, because if there was something for them to be doing, keep building their portfolio and still earn why they go why they prepare for their residency training, that's different. But this time around, limited non-training roles, limited training roles, and so there are just so many doctors and there aren't jobs. Now another factor is the fact that it's not only the UK trained doctors that are competing for these jobs. There is also a global competition, because a lot of IMG doctors are also internationally trained medical graduates, are also hoping to get into specialty training posts. These are actually doctors that they got their primary medical qualification outside of the UK, and they have had to sit for the UK licensing exam, the PLAB 1, PLAB 2 exams, which actually quite cost a fortune. Like, it does cost a fortune, and they have done all of that and they have become GMC licensed. Prior to 2020, there used to be what we call the resident labor market test, and so this is more like this actually makes it possible in that in terms of allocating training slot, like for doctors to actually get into training position, it is actually allocated based on certain criteria. So usually the UK trained medical doctors are usually allocated to training slots first, then followed by those within the EU and those who have settled status, and then whatever is left was what was handed over to IMGs. However, in 2021, in the height of COVID, the NHS was in crisis, and so the government needed to make an attractive offer to IMG doctors in order for them to be able to come help out in the NHS. And so what was basically done was that the resident labor market test had to be taken off, and so the the job of a doctor, was added to the shortage occupational list, and this made it possible for these international medical graduates who were coming into the UK to be able to apply for specialty training, and that is still in place until now. And this is why it is actually possible for internationally trained doctors to still be able to apply for specialty roles within the NHS. These doctors are also competing to get into specialty training posts. Some are doctors who are already within the UK, and some are doctors still outside of the UK. So now with all of these issues, these factors on ground, it's clear that these are like some of the main reasons why doctors are still facing unemployment. So what is the way forward? So recently the BMA in March made early this year actually made a proposition which was more like for the UK medical graduates to be prioritized, and this for IMG doctors who have up to 2 years of NHS experience, they also will be considered on the same ground as UK medical trained doctors for specialty roles. And this was actually brought up at the committee, and this was suggested to the government. However, the government hasn't come out to really say what their position is, but based on a few things here and there, it's beginning to look like the government might actually work with this proposal, and it's looking like UK medical graduates might be prioritized in terms of specialty training. However, the health secretary said that the full the full report is going to be out in summer. So everyone is still waiting for that report, especially the IMG doctors, to actually know their fate. Especially those who have, invested so much in sitting for the PLAB exams and, hoping that they will be able to come work in the NHS. But now, it looks like it doesn't look like they are going to be able to have that opportunity to come into the NHS, but we don't know. things might actually change. The government might come up with, better solution that we be able to resolve this problem. But then we definitely know that one thing that is very important that needs to be sorted out at this time is the fact that there is a need to increase the number of training positions. Yes, because the available training positions are definitely not going to be enough to cater to the number of doctors that are being produced even within the UK itself, coupled with the doctors who are already in the NHS. So that is one thing that is very important that needs to be done even at this time. And I know that the BMA is actually trying to take a step in this direction to speak to the government about the possibility of increasing specialty training roles to be able to accommodate more doctors. Everyone is just worried about it because this is actually like people's career on the line, both for the UK doctors, UK trained doctors, and even for the IMGs. This is because for every doctor, one thing is the fact that you always want to reach the helm of your career. Every doctor, a lot of doctors usually want to go through the specialty training to become consultants in various fields of their endeavors. So we are talking about people's future, people's career on the line. And I can only hope that this issue is just going to be resolved in the best way that, that we actually give consideration to every party that is involved, in this issue. Feel free to actually share your thoughts, share your opinion. Peradventure you are a PA or AMP, and you feel like maybe I haven't really I didn't give a lot of details about your job, please feel free to actually share your thoughts in the comment section. And peradventure you are a doctor and you have been caught in this situation, feel free to actually share your thoughts too. And so this is where I'm going to be ending this video today. Until I see you again, take care, bye.